Since the time of the Romans, they were busy spreading misinformation about each other. AI is now another tool which reflects on that. Even when it's not trying to create disinformation, misinformation, AI happily recreates misinformation. And the idea that just because somebody says something on Twitter, their reach is the same, that's not true. No. Also, boosting far-right narratives has been something that Musk has wanted to do directly and via the algorithms, etc. So I think it isn't a case that there's a free speech platform and then it's a free market and everyone just engages with the best idea wins. It's not at all that.
Hey everybody, welcome to my channel again, where we cook and talk about a lot of things. Today we will do a cabbage and a Syrian dish named malfouf. You know, cabbage is very boring vegetable, but we can make it very interesting. Stay with me to see how we can make it interesting. First thing we want to do, we have to figure out how we cut the cabbage before we roll it. It's not easy dish, but it is so yummy. First of all, we have to take this thing, I don't know what's called it in any language in the world.
Few moments later.
And then we put it in hot water for the water has to be hot. So we leave it 5 minutes. Look how it's easy to take the leaves after you put it in the water. Just need a little bit, but boiling rice, and we need black peppers, we need cumin, very important, garlic, we need the bitter man, 20 gram of meat. Also we need dry mint, very important. When it is like this, that means the stuffing is ready. And now let's do the sauce. For the sauce, we need this one. We need lemon, dry mint, cumin, a lot. More is better with cumin. Black peppers, also salt. Black pepper is great. Warm water will be fine. I'll just mix it a little bit. We put the leaf like this, open it, and then with the knife, we cut it from the middle. Here also from the middle. Take this out the leaves to make the rolling easier. Don't put it full, put it like this. And then take this side and this side and this side and roll it slowly, and after you roll it, press it a little bit to give it step up. And then we bought some garlic, just leave it like this. And we put the dish like this, this dish to keep the cabbage together. So how are you, Rashad? Can you tell me who you are?
Oh, my name, you mean? Or,
Yeah, I think so.
so Rashad Ali,
Yeah.
and I've been working on issues around propaganda, information operations, initiatives to challenge misinformation, election interference, de-radicalization initiatives, terror extremism for the last, I don't know, very long time, almost 15, 16, 17 years or so.
Oh, that misinformation is a very old thing, not a new thing.
No, I think it's been around. They say it's been around for centuries and millennia. I was reading an article where they spoke about how since the time of the Romans, they were busy spreading misinformation about each other um, in order to keep themselves in power. So the idea of controlling societies by giving them some information or not giving them some information or giving them propaganda and suppressing propaganda, it's been around for a very long time.
For all this year, your research about misinformation, what different misinformation now than like 5 years ago?
So I think firstly, I think we like to prefer the term information operations because it's not always about misinformation. Sometimes it's about suppressing information. For example, when India went into basically it's already occupying parts of Kashmir, but when it wanted to suppress the entire environment, it just shut down the internet completely. So there's nothing coming out of what was happening in Kashmir. We see the way narrative is controlled, and right now, via what's happening in Gaza, there's no free press. There's only press which is allowed in by the Israelis, controlled by the Israeli military, and so there's an attempt at controlling that narrative, as opposed to just providing misinformation. Of course, there's lots of small tactics which are used in this information, such as propaganda, and there's also misinformation that's put out just to create confusion. And I don't think any of those tactics have changed as such, but where we see them, how they're applied, how they're targeted, is very different for each audience.
Can you give me some example?
I mean, I remember thinking about this when I was at a conference in Pakistan, which was on information operations. And ironically, it was organized by a number of different partners, some of which were pretty guilty of spreading misinformation and disinformation quite regularly. And I gave a couple of examples there, which I think really stuck out. One was, it was partly sponsored by The Independent. The Independent obviously had the likes of Robert Fisk on their press at the time. And he was obviously very, very well known for being slightly callous. His relationship with the truth was not a strong one. Yeah. And so he did things like make accusations about the Syrian opposition and the chemical weapons attack. That was a huge information operation that carried on for a long time. At the time, Russia TV was being broadcast on our television channels. And the new leader, your party.
Which party?
Your party. That's what it's called. It's called Your Party.
Oh, I thought I'm not having a party.
It's called Your Party. Jeremy Corbyn, he went on Russia TV and he said, I've been told by Russian intelligence that the Syrian opposition groups have dropped chemical weapons on themselves. So there's all sorts of things like that were hugely impactful on parts of the hard left and the far right. And they kind of flooded the information space to create enough confusion to stop people reacting to it strongly.
I'm a very normal person sitting on the internet. Let's say I am a young person.
It's hard.
I am not.
Let's pretend
I'm not. Yeah, I'm very old. Let's say I am a young person sitting on the internet today, and how I can know this information is misinformation or not misinformation, because in the time we are living in now, you just mentioned Robert Fisk from Independent. His information was not correct, and the time where we are living, there is a lot of information coming is completely misleading.
Yeah. So I think it is actually quite hard. I think that's true to say that for people who are just looking at informational sources to try and ascertain facts, to try and determine what is reported by and what is verifiable is actually not as easy as people would assume. And there are things that people who now devoted their jobs to this. The BBC has a team devoted to this.
Yeah, but a lot of people think BBC part of the problem.
I think mainstream media will make. There's a difference in making mistakes in reporting, which happens everywhere and all the time. We're never going to be in a media environment which is free from that. Also, media will have bias.
Yes.
Institutions will have bias, either historic relationships, bias of the personalities or the editorial mind, political influences to a large extent do exist. We see this a lot, in times which are difficult, for example, where there's conflicts arising down, those biases will become manifest in a very, very strong way. And if you speak to people who are very pro-Israeli, they will say the BBC is very anti-Israel. If you speak to people in the pro-Palestinian camp, they will tell you the BBC is just a mouthpiece for the Israeli government. So there's this kind of like...
Yeah, but,
right,
but listen, I respect, I agree with you, but that not mean BBC, how reporting about Gaza is totally different how reporting about Ukraine.
Of course. No, I think that's...
And how they are mentioning the number of people compared to the people in Ukraine, those just number at Ukraine, they are people.
So I think one of the things about this is about how you frame things and how you frame ideas. So one of the persistent campaigns that's been run on the media very successfully is to talk about everything that's happening in Gaza is controlled by Hamas. So the numbers of dead that you're getting, they're not from the health ministry coordinated by the Israeli government sources to determine who exists, who's a citizen, who's there present, who is killed. It's just presented as this is the Hamas health ministry. And they successfully campaigned to do that. So now all the media, anything they report about this, they will frame it as though it's speculative because this is via Hamas. And so that's been a very successful campaign to make all the media reshape the way they report it, which is obviously not the case with any information that's coming out of Ukraine. Secondly, there's a suppression of information. So because there are there's no free access of journalists in Gaza, therefore it's presented as though this is information that's coming from the Palestinian side versus the Israeli side. So even if a journalist is an award-winning journalist with Reuters, as an example, and he is killed by the Israelis, there's still a fear amongst the press to report it in a very clear way. And so they will report it as though here's 5 journalists that have been killed. And also Israel's response is, well, they're just Hamas members. And it's hard to then say, well, they claimed this, we looked into this, it was refuted by the, global media previously. And it gets lost in that narrative framing, which obviously you don't see when atrocities, which happen every day in Ukraine, but now they're less media-worthy. So it doesn't get as much play, which happens with the atrocities that happen every night in Gaza. It gets little to no media play. And we kind of know about it because there's individual journalists, there's individual personalities who are making the effort to verify these facts and present them. So you have personalities like Mustafa Patoha, who's a very well-known, award-winning writer, poet, etc., who has these networks in Gaza from his family, from his friends, and he's someone who's personally lost his family members and he makes effort to verify news and bring it out. So unless you kind of figure out who are the people that I can trust, who are the people that verify information for these specific areas, who can I then go to then determine that information and cross-reference? And then you can start to build an idea of, I can get good information about what's happening in Ukraine here. I can get bad information about what happened in Syria from maybe certain human rights observatories, which give bad figures on, so...
Is the most fake news? Right, so they are funny. How much they are fake.
But it's easy for you because you know that,
yeah.
You know the Syrian news environment. You know the observatory is got a reputation for having very, very bad figures. So when people quote it, if it's in Sky News or wherever, you start to think, why is this happening? And then eventually you can start campaigning and building information up. But it's easy for you because you're familiar with that. for most people, all they would think is, oh, it's a human rights organization.
How much AI changed the game?
Oh, this is a good question. How much has the AI changed the game? I think only in the kind of like in the way it reflects what the problems are. So the problems already exist. AI is now another tool which reflects that. Even when it's not trying to create disinformation, misinformation, AI happily recreates misinformation, hallucinates things, and then have been part of this propaganda stuff. I mean, some of the most worst examples have been, what is it called? The Twitter AI bot begins with G. Grok. Some of the worst examples have been with Grok, where it will just fantasize extreme ideas and push those narratives back to people. They had to be shut down because they're spreading racist propaganda and far-right propaganda. So I think it's only going to manifest what we have as...
Yeah, but you say the propaganda here is not misinformation. There's a different, very different between propaganda and misinformation.
Yeah, I think as I was looking always at information operations as part of the different tools that you have. Some of it is propaganda, some of it is misinformation, some of it is controlling information, and some of it is just basically making up stuff and saying what sticks.
Hear me out. As we live in a place, but we have freedom of speech. Not everybody have the same right.
So there's a few things. Firstly, the idea that Twitter's platform is neutral and gives everybody...
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm not that naive.
And the idea that just because somebody says something on Twitter, their reach is the same. That's not true. So boosting far-right narratives has been something that Musk has wanted to do directly and via the algorithms, etc. So I think it isn't a case that there's a free speech platform and then it's a free market and everyone just engages with the best idea wins. It's not at all that. There's algorithmic influence.
No, but
there's shaping narratives that he wants to push. And that's always been the case.
How does far right use misinformation?
So this is something that happens cyclically. So it happens all the time. They'll move from one issue to another issue. So right now, the big issue obviously is foreigners and migrants, and it's a common theme. And I think you saw Elon Musk tweet something, a completely made up story about rapists coming as migrants and so on and so forth. And it was a fabricated story. He retweeted it. He's obviously got a huge following, has the ability to control that narrative online. And these things, they move very, very quickly. We saw this with the riots that happened in the UK last year.
Can you tell me how they moved very quickly?
Well, so usually it's people who have following, they're able to then utilize that narrative framing and rally groups around. So that's the first thing. But the second aspect of this is it is organized on the ground.
How?
So there are people who are literally, there are far-right groups that are organized on the ground. They're going to be having demonstrations in the real world. So it's not just in the real world where they will target centers, for example, where migrants hotels have been. We saw politicians take part in this. We saw politicians go and make videos in front of hotels and then afterwards apologize for saying, oh, sorry, that they weren't in that hotel. But they've already taken part in this propaganda. The damage has been done. The narrative is already out there. But it was a set of narratives. And those narratives are used, and they're usually used by the far right about particular communities. So blacks are criminals and rapists. They go after our women. Migrant communities now are rapists. Similarly, when it comes to things like the way they will talk about Jews as a community, who used to be a very essential part of the far right narrative, was that they're sneaky and they're powerful and they're infiltrating the system, etc. And then we have these narratives about Muslims who are now colluding with the communists in order to bring about Sharia. And so there's this narrative now that's very, very widespread in France, is very, very popular, hasn't really taken off here. There's some of that we're seeing in the US. We're seeing some of that attempt with Zahra al-Namdani to present him as this Islamo-communist, secretly part of...
He's Islamic and communist.
Yeah, he's a far left communist, but he's secretly trying to bring Sharia to New York.
Yeah, how communist and Sharia law work together?
Yeah, so this is taken root now, and people use it to bring common enemies together.
Okay, the food is ready, so try it.
So what should I try first? Let's try this.
Yeah.
That is good. It's not as good as your biryani, but it's very good.
How many percent?
So far, I'd say maybe 77.
Oh, that's really good.
Why 77?
Sorry?
Why 77?
Why 77? Because I think I'd give the biryani about a 93.
Oh.
This is not quite there, but it's very good.
I'll try the meat. You can try whatever you feel.
The meat is always going to taste good.
So cabbage is boring vegetables.
No, I like the cabbage.
I like the cabbage, but in general, it's boring vegetable. But
I like cabbage.